Something shifts the moment the hammer strikes the wood. The sound cuts through the air like thunder. Not just an echo of pain, but the breaking of the world itself. The Chosen Season 6. Episode 2 doesn't just show us the crucifixion, it pulls us inside it. Every heartbeat, every tear, every breath feels heavier than time itself. This isn't just another episode, it's the long night of the soul, where love walks into darkness and refuses to turn back. Dallas Jenkins promised that this would be The Chosen's most powerful chapter yet. And he wasn't exaggerating. What unfolds in this episode is nothing short of sacred agony, the moment when heaven's silence becomes the loudest sound ever heard. The night before the cross doesn't begin with chaos, it begins with stillness. A silence so deep that it feels alive. The disciples are scattered, some hiding in shadows, others weeping into their hands. The once unbreakable brotherhood has splintered under fear. Peter, torn apart by guilt, can still hear the echo of his denial in the dark. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees Jesus' face, calm, forgiving, unshaken. But that forgiveness feels heavier than condemnation. Judas is gone, his betrayal echoing through the night like a curse. The silver coins that once clinked with greed now burn in his mind. And as dawn approaches, the world holds its breath. Jesus, bound and beaten, stands before the Roman soldiers. His face carries the quiet of a man who has already made peace with destiny. The guards mock him, crown him with thorns, and wrap him in purple as if to mock his kingship. But he doesn't speak. Not one word of defiance. Because this isn't defeat. It's the fulfillment of something larger than pain. Dallas Jenkins captures this paradox perfectly. The stillness of surrender, the strength inside silence. Each frame feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for heaven to intervene, but heaven stays silent. Inside the praetorium, Pilate faces his own torment. He sees no guilt in this man, yet he fears the crowd more than truth. The episode masterfully shows Pilate not as a villain, but as a prisoner of his own power. His wife whispers warnings, his conscience screams, but the noise outside drowns it all. The mob demands blood. And as the camera closes in on Pilate's trembling hands, the audience feels it. That human weakness that changes history. When he finally washes his hands, it doesn't feel like cleansing. It feels like surrender to darkness. Outside, the crowd surges. The same voices that once shouted, "Hosanna," now roar, "Crucify him!" The Chosen turns the moment into something terrifyingly intimate. It's not just noise, it's betrayal given 1,000 faces. Among them, the disciples watch in disbelief. John tries to follow, holding back tears. Mary stands still, her face pale but unbroken. You can feel her heart cracking quietly inside her chest. She doesn't cry out. She just watches, knowing that every step her son takes is one step closer to the unthinkable. The episode doesn't rush. It lingers. It forces us to sit inside the discomfort of injustice. We see the whips, the dust, the mocking laughter, but more than that, we feel the weight of every choice. The Chosen doesn't turn away from the cruelty, yet it never sensationalizes it. Instead, it lets the quiet moments speak louder. When Jesus stumbles under the beam of the cross, there's no dramatic score, no shouting miracle, just the sound of wood dragging across stone and the breath of a man carrying the world. Dallas Jenkins described this episode as the heartbeat of the entire series, and it shows. Everything the show has built toward, every miracle, every parable, every glance of compassion, leads here. To this road, this burden, this silence. As the cross rises against the morning light, something shifts. Not in the world, but in us. The faith we've watched grow now trembles under the weight of what it must witness. In this first half of episode 2, there's no comfort, no resolution, just the slow unraveling of love in a world that cannot understand it. And yet, somehow, Within that unraveling, there's peace. Because the chosen doesn't show a man being defeated, it shows love refusing to die, even when nailed to a cross. The world holds its breath as Jesus is led through the narrow streets of Jerusalem, the beam of the cross pressing into his torn shoulders. Dust rises around him, mixing with blood, sweat, and the whispers of a watching city. This is no ordinary execution. It's prophecy unfolding in real time. The sun burns high above, yet everything feels darker than night. The soldiers shout, the crowd jeers, but through the noise, Jesus remains silent. That silence isn't weakness, it's purpose. Every step he takes is deliberate, each fall an echo of love refusing to surrender. When he collapses for the second time, the camera doesn't look away. It lingers on his face, not to show pain, but peace. Because even here, under unbearable suffering, there is stillness. The weight of the world rests on a single pair of trembling shoulders, yet his eyes remain fixed ahead. The chosen captures that impossible paradox, a man crushed, yet unbroken. The Roman soldiers drag Simon of Cyrene from the crowd, forcing him to help. His hands, once clean, are now stained with the same blood that will redeem the world. It's a simple act, but it changes everything. In that moment, Simon's struggle becomes a mirror of ours, carrying a cross we never chose, but one we're called to bear. At Golgotha, time seems to stop. The earth feels smaller, the air heavier. The crucifixion begins not with screams, but with preparation. A mechanical cruelty carried out by men who've done this 100 times before. The nails are ready, the ropes are tied, and for a fleeting second, silence falls again. The soldiers work without emotion, but the disciples watching from afar are breaking apart inside. John can barely breathe. Mary trembles yet doesn't move. She cannot look away. Not from her son, not from her Savior. And then, the first nail strikes. The sound isn't loud, but it feels endless. Each hammer blow echoes like thunder in the distance. The chosen doesn't rush it, doesn't dramatize it. It lets the horror breathe. Because this isn't spectacle, it's sacrifice. The pain, the gasps, the trembling hands of those nearby, it all feels too real. The camera holds steady on the faces, Mary, pale and still, John, clenching his fists, even the Roman centurion, his expression changing as the moment unfolds. It's as if everyone knows that something more than death is happening here. When the cross rises into the air, the sky changes. Clouds thicken, wind howls. Nature itself reacts. It's not just the crucifixion of a man. It's creation responding to its creator's suffering. And through the storm, we hear his voice, quiet, strained, but unbroken. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Those words pierce deeper than the nails ever could. Even in agony, he gives grace. Even in death, he offers mercy. That's the moment when the story shifts, when pain becomes purpose. The Chosen makes us feel that transformation. You don't just watch, you carry it. The silence between his breaths feels like a heartbeat slowing down, like the world is collapsing inward. The disciples can't reach him. The soldiers keep their distance. Only Mary and John remain near the foot of the cross. Their eyes meet his, and everything else fades. No dialogue, no movement, just connection. A mother and her son, heaven and earth, love and suffering intertwined. Dallas Jenkins said that filming this sequence left the entire crew silent. You can sense that in every frame. The lighting shifts, shadows fall differently, the air itself feels heavier. It's not acting anymore, it's reverence. Jonathan Rumi doesn't portray pain as physical torment. He shows it as surrender, as peace beyond comprehension. Every movement, every breath feels intentional. You can see that this isn't the end. It's the fulfillment of everything he came to do. Then comes the moment that changes everything. It is finished. The words fall like lightning, not shouted, but whispered. Calm, final, absolute. The sky cracks open, thunder rolls, and the earth trembles. The temple veil tears, the ground shakes, and those who mocked now fall silent. Even the Roman centurion stares upward, his eyes wide, whispering, "Surely this was the Son of God." And in that confession, humanity begins to awaken. But the chosen doesn't end the scene there. It lingers on the aftermath, the wind, the dust, the silence after the storm. The body hangs still, the world holding its breath in grief and awe. The same silence that began the night before now closes it. Heaven seems empty, yet full of meaning, because in that stillness, something sacred has begun. The kind of peace that can only come after the world has been broken. When the last echo of thunder fades, the world feels hollow. The hill of Golgotha stands quiet, the crowd long gone, leaving behind only wind and sorrow. The air still carries the scent of blood and dust, the remnants of a battle fought without swords. Jesus hangs motionless, his head bowed, and for the first time in history, heaven feels silent. The earth has stopped shaking, but something deeper has broken. Not just the body of a man, but the heart of creation itself. The chosen captures this silence like a heartbeat slowing down, stretching each moment until it hurts. The sky darkens, the wind dies, and the emptiness feels eternal. At the foot of the cross, Mary remains. She doesn't cry out, doesn't collapse. Her grief is too deep for sound. Her eyes are fixed on her son, the boy she once held, the man who now hangs before her, and the Savior she cannot reach. John stands beside her, torn between faith and despair. The soldiers begin to clear the hill, their orders cold and mechanical, but even they move differently now, as if they know they've done something they can never undo. The centurion looks up one last time, his hand trembling, before turning away. No one speaks. Words are useless in a world that has just killed its only hope. As the storm settles, the disciples emerge from hiding. Peter is the first to appear, his face hollow, his soul shattered. Every step he takes toward the hill feels heavier than stone. He sees the cross from a distance, sees the body, and falls to his knees. The same man who once swore loyalty now has no words left. His tears blur his vision, but the image won't fade. In his silence, he begs for forgiveness he believes he doesn't deserve. The chosen lets that pain linger, showing us not just the cost of betrayal, but the unbearable weight of regret. Elsewhere, the others hide in darkness. The upper room is filled with whispers and fear. No miracles, no laughter, just silence. Matthew clutches his scrolls, his hands shaking. Thomas paces endlessly, his faith cracked open by doubt. Mary Magdalene prays, her voice trembling, her words unfinished. They all ask the same question in their own way. How could this happen? The man who healed the blind, who calmed storms, who raised the dead, how could he be gone? The chosen doesn't answer. It lets us sit in that question, in the confusion and grief that make faith real. The world outside continues as if nothing happened. Rome celebrates order restored, Caiaphas feels vindicated, and Pilate pretends peace has returned. But deep down, none of them can escape what they've seen. Pilate stares into a basin of water, seeing blood that won't wash away. Caiaphas prays in a temple that suddenly feels empty. Even the soldiers who mocked him can't sleep that night. Something inside them shifted, something they can't explain. That's the power of this episode. It shows how the crucifixion didn't just change believers, it shattered everyone who witnessed it. As the day fades into night, Joseph of Arimathea steps forward. His face is solemn, his eyes heavy with reverence. He risks everything to ask for the body. Pilate hesitates, but finally nods. The scene unfolds with quiet reverence. No music, no speeches, just the sound of cloth and stone. Joseph and Nicodemus wrap the body carefully, their hands trembling as if they're touching something far beyond mortal understanding. Every motion is sacred. They're not burying a man. They're laying hope in a tomb. Mary watches in silence as they carry him away. Her hands clutch the fabric of his robe, her tears soaking the ground. The camera follows her gaze. The stone, the shroud, the darkness of the tomb. As the stone rolls into place, a deep, final sound fills the air, and the screen feels like it's breathing its last. The world, for now, is without light. But the chosen doesn't leave us there in despair. In the stillness after the burial, there's a subtle shift, a feeling, a whisper. The kind of silence that isn't empty, but expectant. The night grows deeper, but the stars shine brighter. It's as if creation itself is holding its breath, waiting for something it can't yet see. The disciples don't know it yet, but this silence, this unbearable, suffocating quiet, isn't the end. It's the pause before the impossible. The chosen lets us feel that tension, the space between grief and glory. Because before resurrection can come, there must first be silence. Before light can break, the night must do its worst. And as the camera fades into darkness, we're left not with words, but with a heartbeat. Slow, steady, unbroken. The story isn't over. It's only waiting to rise. The night after the crucifixion feels endless. Every corner of Jerusalem is drenched in stillness, not peace, but absence. The disciples sit together, their faces pale in the dim light of the oil lamps. Nobody speaks. Nobody moves. Hope feels like a memory. Peter stares at the door, expecting soldiers to break through at any moment. Mary Magdalene sits beside the empty robe, her fingers tracing its folds as if she could still feel his presence in the fabric. John holds her hand, but says nothing. The world outside continues, but inside that small room, time stands still. This is The Chosen Season 6, Episode 2, where silence becomes its own kind of story, heavy, sacred, and unbearable. Every shadow in that room feels alive with what's been lost. The disciples can't pray, can't eat, can't even look at one another for too long. The air feels thick with guilt and confusion. The Chosen Season 6. Episode 2 shows faith not as triumph, but as survival. The desperate act of holding on when everything is gone. Peter breaks down again, his voice cracking as he repeats the same words over and over. I should have stayed. I should have fought. John pulls him close, but his own tears betray him. These men, once bold enough to face storms and crowds, now tremble at the sound of footsteps outside. And yet, even in their fear, something unseen begins to stir. A quiet pulse of hope buried beneath the grief. Mary, the mother of Jesus, sits apart from them. Her silence is the center of the room. Her eyes are swollen, her hands still clasped as if in prayer. She doesn't ask why. She doesn't demand answers. She simply waits. That waiting becomes the heartbeat of The Chosen Season 6, Episode 2. The way she stares into the emptiness feels like she knows something the others have forgotten. That love does not end in darkness. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely a whisper, yet it fills the room. He said he would return. Those words fall like a spark in dry grass, small but alive. The disciples don't react, not yet, but something shifts. Outside, the city sleeps uneasy. The temple priests celebrate victory, but their laughter rings hollow. Pilate stares out his window at the horizon, haunted by the silence that followed the crucifixion. Even he can't shake the feeling that this story isn't over. The Roman guards stationed at the tomb whisper to each other, nervous without knowing why. The Chosen shows these moments with breathtaking subtlety. No grand music, no sudden revelation, just quiet unease spreading across a world that thinks it has won. As dawn approaches, the tone of The Chosen Season 6, Episode 2 begins to shift. The night slowly fades, not with relief, but with a strange anticipation. Mary Magdalene rises before the others. Her face is still streaked with tears, but her eyes hold something new, resolve. She steps outside, the wind cold against her skin, the streets empty except for the faint sound of roosters in the distance. The camera lingers on her footsteps, slow but steady. She walks toward the tomb, toward the silence that swallowed her faith. Every step feels like defiance. The closer she gets, the more the world seems to hold its breath again. When she reaches the hill, the sky is painted with the first light of morning. The tomb stands silent, the stone sealed, the guards weary. Mary falls to her knees, her prayer breaking the quiet. She whispers his name once, then again. The chosen doesn't rush this moment. It lets us sit with her, with the ache of unanswered prayers. The wind shifts, the leaves rustle. A faint sound echoes through the valley, something small, almost unnoticeable, but it's enough to make her look up, enough to make us feel it, that this silence isn't death. It's the breath before resurrection. The episode closes not with sight, but with sound, a heartbeat. Faint at first, then steady, echoing through the air like the return of something eternal. The Chosen Season 6. Episode 2 ends exactly where faith begins. Not in proof, but in hope. The same hope that survived the whip, the nails, and the cross. The same hope that still lives in every trembling prayer. It's the promise that love, no matter how silent or buried, always finds its way back to light. Dallas Jenkins once said this would be the most powerful season yet, and he was right. The Chosen Season 6 Episode 2 isn't just a story, it's an awakening. It reminds us that even when the world goes dark, when faith seems lost, and when the silence feels endless, dawn always comes. Because love, real love, never stays buried, it rises.